of the Father, he exists in two ways. He exists as a person that wants to give his children anything they ask for and anything they desire. And the Father exists as the one that's willing to sit down with his Son and to have a clear and honest conversation about what is actually happening and how to properly deal with what's happening. If we look at the beginning of the parable, and we look at the Father's interaction with the youngest son, he is the Father that will give his kids anything. Ask my kids. I know this Father. If they say something, I figure out some way to give it to them because I'm that dad. And they have that mom too. No, they don't. I mean, I love you. Thank goodness they don't, because the balance exists in that. And it keeps things realistic. But it's a father that wants to make things possible for the child. And this father makes it possible for the child to go back into the world. And I really feel that this father knew what he was doing. God knows what he's doing when God gifts us with things and then empowers us to use them for ourselves. At the very beginning of this story, when you see the Father give gifts to the Son, when you see the Son go out and grow and learn from his mistakes and come back home, you see a complete story because of the initial gift of the Father of the potential of free will. God has gifted us with the ability to make our own decisions. God has enabled us with the ability to decide and decipher and weigh out right from wrong. And within the greatest gift also comes the greatest worry, because within our free will, we can choose to do what's right. We can choose to waste what we have. But it is left for us to go out and live and grow through those decisions. The Father in our lives gives us gifts, gives us blessings, and gives us immeasurable fortunes. And that God knows that we will go out with our free will and live and interact, and we'll make mistakes or we'll have victories. But that Father knows that we will always have the potential to come back to the kingdom and grow. Thankfully, that happens in this story. The son comes back, and there's a really cool moment that happened that I never realized before in all the years that I read this scripture. When the son comes back, the Father is there with open arms to hug him and welcome him back. The greatest image of forgiveness there is the son who took his inheritance and came back to the open arms of his father, forgiven. But the father saw that his son was worthy, because here's what's happened, and I didn't notice this until this week. The son didn't just run into the arms and receive forgiveness. The son stood accountable for his actions, and he said he was sorry before he took the hug. An image of justifying grace. Every time I heard this story in Sunday school, it's shared as the image of grace and forgiveness. And what has always stuck in my mind is that the child returned home and was hugged and forgiven. But this week, God showed me a person that was changed and transformed so much that he held himself accountable to his mistakes. He asked for forgiveness, and then he received the hug. In our Wesleyan tradition, that is justifying grace. The Father was there with arms open, and all the Son had to do was take the hug, but the Son decided at a deeper level to interact with the Father through forgiveness, and he voiced his need for forgiveness. And And then he went into the arms and was redeemed. Justifying grace. We need that in our lives. We need the reality that yes, we are the son that goes out and makes the mistakes. And we also need the reality that we are also the son that can come home no matter the mistakes and run into the arms of grace and be forgiven. Then there's this other character. And there's different times in my life that I've felt sorry for this other character. The other character in this story is the older brother, and there's two ways to look at the older brother. The older brother is the one that kind of got left out of the blessing. The father gives the son everything, and he goes out and he ruins it, and he messes it up, and he comes back home, and he gets a big party. I don't know, thankfully I'm an only child, so I don't have this experience to weigh off of. But those of you that have siblings, and have had siblings that are like the Smothers brothers used to say, the one that mom loved best. There's times that we have the older brother syndrome, that we feel neglected and forgotten and ignored and not loved and pushed aside and forgotten because we see all of the blessings go to another person. For years upon years, I felt bad for the older brother, because the older brother was the one that stayed in the kingdom and did all the work and kept everything going and did everything possible to keep the graces of the kingdom flowing. And I always felt bad for the older brother until I realized that the older brother is Jesus Christ. I want you to think about that. Who is the consistent one that gave up everything for the younger children? Who is the consistent one that stays in the kingdom and works for grace and makes grace possible so that the younger children that make all the faults and make all the mistakes get the opportunity to have a moment of justifying grace and come back and feel love? Never more than this week have I felt more grateful for the older brother. Because the older brother kept things possible for the one that made mistakes to come back and be loved in the kingdom. The older brother is Jesus Christ. As you deal with being the younger son, and as we go out and we'll make some boneheaded mistake this coming week, I know I will, that forgiveness does not go away. Thankfully that we have fathers in our lives that care for us, that listen to us, that make blessings possible, and thank God that we have an older brother that's always there doing the work so that grace will not end. Please look for all those images in your life this week, and may the peace of the older brother be with you.